right. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for another VES-Artex Academy webinar. Today, we are joined by Katie Dotterer of KDP AgEducation, and she's going to be presenting on reaching across the cultural borders. We're very excited to have her here with us today. Just a quick housekeeping item. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will moderate them at the end of the presentation. And with that, Katie, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here with you all and have this awesome opportunity to speak with you guys today about culture. So that is what I'm going to be talking to you about. Please, I love questions. So you can put them in the chat box as we go, or maybe save them to ask at the end. That's fine too. But the title of today is Reaching Across the Cultural Border. And we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk a lot about the different cultures and what cultural awareness is and things like that. So yes, my name is Catherine, Katie, Kate. I go by all three. And if you notice down at the bottom, I'm going through a rebranding right now. So formerly kind of still KDP AgEducation, but rebranding into AgVocate, playing on the name. So just a little bit about me, if you don't know much about me. I am a lifelong dairy farmer. I grew up on my family's dairy farm as a third generation in central Pennsylvania. They still are dairying to this day. But I left and started my own farm and had my own for over 12 years. So I've experienced being a third and first generation dairy farmer. And because of that, I have worked with Spanish speakers in the dairy industry for over 15 years, probably longer than that, but it has really sparked my interest in the Spanish language, in the culture, and has just allowed for so many amazing opportunities over the years. So because of that too, I also went back to school. So I have 2 degrees, one in business management and the other in secondary education, Spanish. I had an amazing opportunity to study abroad in Panama. If you ever get the chance to study, or not even study, just to go to another country, do it. You'll learn so much and you will, it's just a big, big eye opener. I'm also certified in ESL, English as a second language. Believe it or not, English is actually one of the hardest languages to learn. And maybe at the end, if anybody reminds me, I can show you just how hard that is, or how hard English can be. So I have been a Spanish teacher in the middle and high school and the public school for 4+ years. And because of that, I've always loved to infuse education and agriculture together. So I developed and I instruct an online Spanish course that I put together. And right now it is tailored specifically for the dairy industry, but I've had swine producers take it, poultry producers. And so with the hopes of expanding into other sectors of ag. And I'm an avid advocate for agriculture. So I share a lot of agricultural themes on social media. Some of you might follow, but it's under AgVocate. So I have 2 polls quick because I want to know about you before we get started, before we really dive into the cultural part of this. So poll number 1 is, what is your involvement in the agriculture industry? So are you a producer? Are you industry representative, veterinarian, or other? Let me know if you would, please. And by the way, I have polls throughout this, so don't be peacing out on me. I tell my high school students that all the time. Don't be peacing out. That's their lingo, not mine.
I'll give it just a few more seconds. But as of right now, it looks like 14% are producers, about 43% are industry representatives, and 43% identify as other.
Okay, so, thank you. So we have another one, and he's back to back, but poll number 2 is, how often do you work with Spanish speakers? I'm curious. So that poll's coming up here shortly. On a daily basis, weekly, monthly, here and there, so infrequently.
So we have 38% on a daily basis, 25% on a weekly basis, and 38% here and there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for that. All right. So we're going to dive right into it. Oops, what did I just do? So on the colorful graphic on the right-hand side, we have culture. And this is not limited to what all culture encompasses, because culture encompasses so many different things. So as you can see here, it's attitudes, beliefs, language, customs, rituals, behavior, religion, food, art, and so many more things. This is just like the tip of the iceberg for culture. And if you think about it, right, agriculture, we do have a different culture in agriculture than, say, somebody that's not involved in agriculture, right? I can guarantee you we probably do share the same beliefs as far as food being produced and why we do what we do in agriculture, why we're in the ag industry versus somebody that's not. So that culture is one thing, but cultural awareness is a little different. So the dictionary definition is a person's understanding of the differences between themselves and people from other countries or other backgrounds, especially differences in attitudes and values. Guys, cultural awareness is really just being aware of somebody else's culture. But we need to go deeper than that, especially in agriculture. 80% of the workforce in ag speak Spanish. That's a pretty big percentage of the people that we work with on a daily basis. 80%. And a lot of people don't know this, the US has the second largest Spanish-speaking population in the entire world. Second largest Spanish-speaking population in the entire world. So it's not just one thing just to be aware of somebody's culture, it's another to respect it. So this next slide is titled aptly because, before I even show you this next slide, these are a bunch of phrases that I have heard throughout my entire life in the industry, especially as of late, and I'm kind of embarrassed to share them with you, but I'm going to. Don't be an arrogant jerk. I'm gonna move this real quick. Just take a look at these. Maybe you've heard some of them in the past. I'm just gonna touch on them each of them really quickly. Here up at the left-hand corner, we have Mexicans. One, you don't own anybody, right? So when a farmer says this to me, I'm just like, okay, this is not modern day slavery. You don't have Mexicans. You don't say you have Americans. So that's not okay to say. The middle one, they live here in America. They should speak American English. This gets me. American is not a language. American is a nationality. English obviously is the language. I really don't particularly care for when people say, well, they live here, they should speak English. Did you know that the US does not have an official language? If you look it up and you ask what the official language is of the USA, there is none. English is not our official language. Now it is like other countries have official languages, but the US just doesn't have one. You've probably heard of the melting pot, the US being a melting pot. When you go to college, you learn more that no, we should be referring to it as a salad bowl because everybody still keeps their identity. You don't want everybody just to meld together. Up at the right-hand corner, they should know how to swim, they're from Mexico. That's just racist. You don't say that. I have heard this. I have heard this too many times, to be honest. Do some people swim to get to the US from their war-torn countries? Yeah. I have heard way too many horror stories from Spanish speakers coming from their third world countries just to come here for a better life. Down at the bottom, I heard this from a bank teller. Well, the Spanish come in here to cash their checks. So when she told me this, I was like, so what part of Spain are they from? Well, they're not from Spain. They speak Mexican, which is the other one there down at the bottom. So Mexican, again, is a nationality. It is not a language. Spanish is a language. Now, to be even more correct here, when she says the Spanish come here to cash their checks, if somebody was from Spain, you could actually refer to them as a Hispanic or a Spaniard, but not Spanish. Spanish is a language. It says they should say they speak Mexican. Again, Mexican is not a language. And then this one, actually, I just saw this in a group not too long ago on Facebook. It was actually worded as a question, but where it says the Mexicans are paid X amount while the Americans are paid X amount. There was a person that seriously asked, what is the going hourly rate for Mexicans versus Americans? And it's like, why are you even asking that question? Just because of the color of their skin, just because they're from a different country, they deserve to get paid less? That's not okay. And there is a big difference, by the way, between arrogance and ignorance. These are just being arrogant. Cultural awareness, just to go back to that quick, is being aware of somebody else's culture. And but it's also not thinking that your own culture is superior to others. Oops, sorry, we have a, shoot, I hope I didn't give it away. We have a poll here. I want to know right off the top, if you know this, it's fine if you don't, just try to guess. Hopefully I didn't just give it away. How many Spanish-speaking countries are there?
Give it just a few more seconds for some more answers to come in. So it looks like we have 13% of people saying the answer is 12, 38% saying 24, and 50% saying 32.
Okay, wow, good to know. These are always so interesting to me. Well, I'm going to show you a map on this next slide. There are technically 20 Spanish-speaking countries. Now I'm going to move this a little bit. I'm going to move me over here. So as you can see, and we're going to talk a little bit about Latin America versus South America. So they're used interchangeably. So I'm just going to try to clarify that for you right now. So you see all the colors, all the colored countries, right? From Mexico down to Argentina and Chile. So geographically, we would refer to that as South America. So South America is the geographical division of the continent. Latin America is referring to the linguistic and or the cultural division of the continent. So there are 20 now. Some people will argue that there's 21 just because, and I just realized that this map, as a Spanish teacher, I liked it a lot because I just realized all the countries were in Spanish, but you get, most of them are cognates. You get what they are in English. Now, España is Spain. So just in case that trips you up, that's Spain. And over here, you see this little red thing over here on the west coast of Central Africa. That is the Equatorial Guinea. Now, this is why some people argue and they're like, no, there's 21 Spanish-speaking countries. They do speak Spanish there, but they speak a lot of other languages as well. So if you're not counting Equatorial Guinea, which some don't, I just wanted to point it out, there are 20. And again, South America is referring to the geographical and Latin America is referring more to linguistic or cultural. Now, you'll also notice this big white space right here. That is Brazil. Brazil is part of South America, but it is not part of Latin America. They do not speak Spanish in Brazil, and no, they do not speak Brazilian. They speak Portuguese in Brazil, which is similar to Spanish. I still struggle when I try to read Portuguese, but so I just wanted to give you a good visual there of the Spanish-speaking countries. I really like this chart because people are like, okay, Katie, well, like, I don't know what to say. What's the correct terminology? I really love this chart. So in the middle, you can see that these are all the South American countries. So Brazil is in here. But if you look at the left, Latino, it does include Brazil, but it does not include Spain. So I had an exchange student live with me a couple years ago. He was from Barcelona, Spain, and somebody had referred to him as a Latino, and he was very offended for a 17-year-old, very offended. He's like, I am not a Latino, I am from Spain. I'm like, calm down, you'll be fine. Like, this is America, everybody makes mistakes everywhere. So that's important to know on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is the term Hispanic. It does include Spain. So people from Spain are still considered Hispanic, but it does not include Brazil. So, and you have to be careful, especially whatever part of the country you're from. I know that there are pockets of people that speak Portuguese all throughout ag also. So you just kind of need to be careful. For me, the safest way is to say a Spanish speaker. And if you don't know what somebody wants to be referred to, ask them. It's way better to ask somebody than to assume. And with that, this next slide, if you've ever taken Spanish or know a little bit about the language, you'll know that there are genders in Spanish. So words are either feminine or masculine. And most of the time, there's exceptions to every rule, but most of the time, if a word ends in an A, it is feminine, versus ending in an O, which is masculine. And then I just wanted to point this out because you're probably going to keep seeing it more and more often, is the term Latinx, which is an attempt to be more cohesive so that the genders aren't being separated by Latina, Latino. So real quick Spanish lesson for you. If you have a group of women from Latin America, you can refer to them as Latinas. If you have a group of males, again, from the same area, you can refer to them as Latinos. Now, again, this is where the Latinx things come in, because in Spanish, the general rule is masculinity, or the masculine form always takes precedence. So if there's a mixed group, so say you have a workforce of female and males from Latin America, you could either technically call the entire group Latinos or Latinx, which again, Latinx is it's a fairly new term that's coming about. So you might see it. So when I ask Spanish speakers, like I just asked them the other, excuse me, I asked an employee the other day how they felt about it. And they're like, like we're not offended if you call us Latinos, as long as, you know, they're not from Spain, they're fine with it. But it's always safer to ask. All right, so no one expects you to know everything about their culture, but they do expect you to respect it. Just like you would expect somebody to respect your culture, right? And in agriculture, again, guys, we have our own culture. And so with the amount of advocacy that I've done in the past, I get disrespected all the time. I should have framed my first death threat because like I'm used to them these days, but respect is key in anything. So I have a picture here of authentic Honduran tacos, and there's a little story behind this. So one of our team members, Marixa, she loves to cook and I love to bake. And where she's from in Honduras, they never had like cheesecake. And I love to bake cheesecake, especially when I'm stressed out. I'm a stress baker. So I make all these cheesecakes. And so she would like be my guinea pig and like taste all the different flavors that I would try. So anyway, she would often make us authentic Honduran tacos. So we just had a cow processed and she brought these tacos to the barn. And she's like, Katie, I made you tacos. I can't wait for you to try them. And I'm like, ooh, like who nobody turns down tacos. So I was looking at them and I was like, yeah, these look different. Like what's in these? And she's like, just eat one. And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, no, just eat one and then I'll tell you. I'm like, okay. So I scarfed one down. It was delicious. It was a little chewy. I noticed a little different. Texture was a little different. And then I was like, all right, what is this? And she's like, taco de lengua. Tongue tacos. Tongue. Yes, cow tongues. Guys, if you have never been licked by a Jersey, like Jerseys lick everything, right? So when I'm out in the barn, I'm always getting licked by Jerseys. That's all, like that's the image that came to mind. And I'm like, I did eat another one just to like, I didn't want to be rude, but yeah, it was an experience. So, and she knew that. She knew that that wasn't part of my culture to eat the tongue of a cow. So every time we got a cow process, we made sure that we asked them, our team, I always refer to them as team, hey, what do you want from the cow? Because we don't eat things, the same things they do. Yes, we all eat the steak, we all eat the hamburger, but they wanted the tongue, they wanted the head, they wanted the hooves. I declined hoof soup. That's what I call it the other when she made that. So, but it's learning about their families, their traditions, their beliefs, their food. The food can be a good time. And I'm going to tell you the flip side. Okay. So I have been disrespected. I walked into, now this was years ago, so I was a lot younger, and I walked into a Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Okay. The entire workforce spoke Spanish. They were all speaking Spanish. So I walked in, and let's just say, so they were all males, and I'm just going to leave it to your imagination of what they were saying about me in Spanish. And so I waited in line and I get up to the register and I ordered my meal in Spanish. I still remember the cashier's jaw dropping and like the entire workforce like just went silent. And I was like, yeah, I heard everything. I got my burger for free that day, which was cool. But what my point is here is that, you know, they just assumed, oh, white girl coming in here and, you know, she probably doesn't know Spanish, which, okay, like I get that, but they assumed wrong that day. Amanda, I just saw your chat. Yes, they get the tongue, liver, and heart. I actually have had heart. Heart tacos, in my opinion, are, they taste a little better than the tongue tacos. I can't. After you get licked profusely by Jerseys, I just can't. I don't know if I'll be able to eat another one, but. All right, so that's my little stories on that. We have another poll here. I only have two more, so this one and one more. So, yep, go ahead and bring that up. What does Cinco de Mayo celebrate? Don't Google it. Just tell me what you think it celebrates. And don't be ashamed if you get it wrong. This is why we're doing this webinar.
All right, so we have 38% at Mexico's Independence Day, 50% of the Battle of Puebla, and 13%, I have no idea. I just love tacos.
Thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. I too love tacos. By the way, did you know tacos are actually, depending on where you go in South America, they're not, it's like an Americanized thing here. Yes, they do tacos, and obviously Marixa does tacos from Honduras, but some places in Mexico, they look at you like, gringo, that's like an American thing. So I'm gonna give you a little lesson on Cinco de Mayo, which I don't know if I told you guys. I'm coming at you from Gettysburg. So if you've never been to Gettysburg, it's gorgeous. Let me know if you ever come, because I know all the places, not all the things. A tour guide is on my list one day. But I'm a history nerd, so I'm gonna clue you in here a little bit on Cinco de Mayo. Let me move this quick. So guys, if you're ignorant about it, it's fine. It's okay to be ignorant about things as long as you take that opportunity to learn about things, right? So it is not Mexico's Independence Day. I can see why you think that, right? Because July 4th is ours, so you think, oh, May 5th must be theirs. That's actually September 16th. What it actually celebrates is the Battle of Puebla of 1862. And technically it's only celebrated in the city of Puebla, Mexico. No other place in Mexico. It's not celebrated in Guatemala, Honduras, any other country, but in Puebla, Mexico. And here is the fun connection. Are you even ready for this? When I found this out, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm such a history nerd. So guys, 1862, Battle of Puebla happened the exact same time as the US Civil War, okay? This is super important because this was the French invasion. So the French were coming in, headed up by Mr. Napoleon himself, coming into Mexico, and we're like, we're gonna take over your country, because they were in cahoots with the South, okay? At this time, at this pivotal time, the South was gaining in the war. The Confederates were gaining. Now, we have to remember that the South exported cotton a lot to France, right? Fashion capital of the world. Well, exports were on halt, making the French not very happy. So the French were in cahoots with the Confederates, and were like, okay, well, if we get Mexico, we can set up shop here and help you win this war. So the French go into Mexico with an army of 7,000 men, okay, 7,000 men. You have Mexican army, which is a ragtag team of 2,000 Mexicans with outdated weapons and really old horses. And the Mexicans won. Can you just take a moment with me and just picture, or maybe even try to imagine, what the outcome of the Civil War might have been had the French won the Battle of Puebla? Crazy, right? So the celebration comes, there was Mexicans living in California at the time, and they heard of this awesome achievement of this, again, this little Mexican army against the French. And so they celebrated with fireworks and good food and dancing, which is why we have Cinco de Mayo. We have, unfortunately, commercialized the crap out of it in the US. I think it's Budweiser's like second biggest grossing holiday next to the Super Bowl. And like, I don't care what you celebrate or how you celebrate it, but know what you're actually celebrating. And there was something else I was gonna tell you about that. Oh, I have a gentleman that follows me on Instagram, and he lives in Puebla. So I post this every year on my social channels. And every year I get people like, I had no idea. I thought it was just margaritas and tacos. And it's like, no, there's an actual legit reason behind this holiday. And anyway, this gentleman reaches out to me. He just started following. So he saw the Cinco de Mayo post, and he was like, this is awesome. Thank you so much for teaching your fellow Americans about this holiday. And he was like, I really want you to come visit, which I don't know this guy from Adam, but I want to go visit. So I've been invited to go to the actual Cinco de Mayo celebration in Puebla. But it was just really cool for somebody from Puebla to reach out. And he did say, he was like, just so you know, we're the only city in the entire country of Mexico that celebrates this holiday. And I'm like, yeah, well, apparently the whole US does too. So another holiday that, unfortunately, in my opinion, is becoming very commercialized in the US is Dia de los Muertos, which is Day of the Dead. A lot of people want to say this is Mexico's Halloween. It is not. It is very different. And up at the right-hand corner, you see the skull, Calvera. That is what they call a sugar skull. And so they decorate them, and you see in the pictures here, a lot of people, they're in parades and celebrations, and they paint their faces like this. Again, it's not for Halloween. It's for this amazing holiday that they celebrate. to commemorate the dead. So as much as I've learned about this holiday, Spanish speakers, depending on what country you're in, do celebrate it. They celebrate it a little differently everywhere you go, but they celebrate life more than we do, I feel like, here in the US. At the bottom picture there, where you see an ofrenda, which is an offering on an altar. So what they do is they set up altars and they make food that their ancestors loved, that their deceased family and friends loved. And the belief is the spirits would come back. Now this happens on November 1st and 2nd. So right after US holiday of Halloween. And it's believed that the spirits come back and join in the celebrations. But it's a huge, huge holiday for them. I love this slide. I'm not going to go through all of it here, but Halloween versus Day of the Dead. Just a couple things I want to point out is where Halloween is characterized by harmful spirits warded off by frightening costumes and masks, versus Day of the Dead, which encourages visits from spirits of those who have died and celebrates their memory. Again, guys, this is a belief and you don't have to agree with it, but you have to respect it. You should respect it. For Halloween, we have images of evil, magic, and monsters. The Day of the Dead, it's images of cheerfully decorated grave sites and home altars with flowers and traditional food. There are actually some parts in Mexico where they actually dedicate a day to deceased children. And so that's kind of more like, I would compare it to trick-or-treating, but I don't call it trick-or-treating because it's not what that is. I really love the picture on the right-hand side here. We are a culture, not a costume. This is a cultural custom. And so it just breaks my heart when I see more and more like Halloween costumes come out with the sugar skull, because I'm like, you don't know what you're actually representing. And if you really want to learn more about this amazing holiday, I encourage you to watch this video or this movie, Coco. If you haven't watched it, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful movie that Disney and Pixar did, and it explains the this holiday in depth. It's awesome. I watch it in Spanish, so I encourage you to do the same because it's fun. Oops, let me see. Okay, I didn't want to miss another poll. So guys, one of the biggest ways to show respect for another culture is to learn some keywords or phrases in their language. Let me move this video again. And it's just simple things like buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, ¿cómo estás? I'm not asking you to be fluent. You don't have to be fluent. But you know, when you would go to another country, most people try, especially if you're in a touristy area, to speak your language. And so if we're going to be working with Spanish speakers often, you should probably learn some other language. I'm not asking to be fluent, okay? Learning a second language is not for everybody, I get that. But I have just witnessed this firsthand, right? When you walk in, this is me in the milking parlor. You walk in and I've witnessed a farmer going, you know, barking out orders like, hey, did you get this done? Did you get this lame cow out of this pen? Every morning I would walk in and say, buenos días, ¿cómo estás? Good morning, how are you? Just a simple, how are you? And guys, it's not specific just to Spanish, right? I don't know about you, but if somebody came to me every morning and was like, hey, did you get X, Y, and Z done? I would rather them greet me with, good morning, how's your morning going? So it's just little things. And I guarantee you, just saying one of these phrases is going to elicit a smile. If it does not elicit a smile, somebody's having a bad day. But that just shows you, oh my gosh, I'm not just here to milk cows. They actually care about me because they're actually learning a little bit about my language, my culture, my family, things like that. I think, yes, we do have one last poll for you. So before we go into this next one, would you be interested in learning some Spanish basics? And it's okay if not, but let me know, I'm curious.
We are at 82% absolutely, with 17% at maybe.
So that means 0 for no.
Correct.
Yeah, that's exciting. And guys, I get it. So my years of teaching, unfortunately, the kids would have to, like, they were forced sometimes to take a language. And I always felt that was unfortunate because it is not for everybody. I had one kid, bless his heart, he tried so hard. And he failed every test, but he turned all of his homework in and he tried. I passed him because I was like, A for effort, man. I was just super excited he at least tried. So that's all I ask for when I do my classes. So just gonna give you a little window, I'm almost done here, of what I have tried to develop for the industry. And again, it's tailored to dairy, but it encompasses ag as a whole too. So I do this really cool Spanish class, and I just updated the website, so I finally have dates for the fall course. But it helps immensely building rapport and positive relationships with others, enhances your communication within teams, and it is so much fun, so much fun. I need to share a little story with you. I love this. So my students, and now my students range anywhere from farmers to veterinarians to pharmaceutical reps to industry representatives, you name it, I've had it. I actually had my first pork producer my last course. And I'll get to the nitty gritty here of what they all encompass, but one of my favorite stories, and I don't ask my students for these, they just get so excited and they'll come back on, they're like, oh my gosh, Katie, I got to tell you what happened. So this student had just taken my class. We were in the 3rd week. So by week 3 of my beginners class, we're putting simple sentences and simple phrases together. She was a milk tester, and she's like, Katie, I went to this farm, and it's a pretty large farm. So I'm there for about 5 hours testing milk. And she said, every time that I went, it was just kind of awkward because the entire, all the milkers they all spoke Spanish. So they did their job. I did my job. And so she's like, but I was like, I'm going to use some of the Spanish I learned in your class. So she said, all I had to do was open my mouth and say buenos dias and use just, again, some of the phrases that I had taught her. And she was like, it was like a completely new workforce. She's like, they started talking to me, and I give you phrases to help you, like, hey, slow down, or I'm learning, or I'm a beginner. And she's like, we had these amazing conversations. She said the 5 hours went so fast. Now, here's the kicker to this whole story. During the 5 hours, right, that she's like having a ball, speaking Spanish and testing milk at the same time, she's like, it snowed so hard. Like, I don't know, it was like 5 foot in an hour or whatever. She said, I went out to my car to load my milk samples, and the entire team had cleaned her car off. I was like, do you realize how much respect you garnered just in the 5 hours that you were there testing milk? So now, and then she gave me an update by the end of the course. She's like, it's one of my favorite farms to go test at. They love when I come. They teach me their dialect. They teach me new words, which, you know, they like to teach you the non-formal words, we'll just say. But it's so much fun, and I love hearing about that. And I've put some other testimonials on the website if you want to check them out. But this is what it consists of. It's 100% online. They are live, but they're recorded. I get it, guys. You all have lives going on. You got families. But they're recorded, so you can tune in when you want or when you can. It's 8 weeks long, 16 total classes. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays, so 1 hour each. And I know life happens, so I actually keep all the resources, all the recorded videos. I do digital flashcards too, by the way. I already have your flashcards done for you. I do suggest writing them out too, but they're already done. And so I keep them up for an additional month, for an additional 4 weeks, just in case you fall behind, because it happens. I understand how things work. So if you are interested in learning Spanish, the fall course starts the end of September. I do plan on offering a winter course. I just don't have the dates right now. That is my website down at the bottom if you want to check it out. I love this testimonial. I included this one because this girl, she was like, oh my gosh, I play charades all the time, right? Like you're moving your hand, you're pointing to things. And she's like, after this, I didn't have to do that as much. So it's a lot of fun. Students share stories, we sing, we dance, I dance. I dance a lot, but it's a lot of fun. So if you're interested, I hope that you would join us. And with that, guys, I'm wrapping this up with, if you are not learning, you're not living. Embrace the differences, reach across those cultural borders, and you'll open yourself up to a whole new world of possibilities and experiences. And guys, I'm here to tell you, I'm not perfect. When I first meet a Spanish speaker, I introduce myself, but one of the first things I tell them is, I'm not perfect. I actually hate being called fluent because I will never be fluent. I grew up in central PA. I should know more PA Dutch than I do Spanish. I do not. But you know, I'm never going to be from Nicaragua. So I'm always learning new dialects, new words, new lingo. So it's exciting and it's fun. And you don't only learn Spanish when you're learning Spanish, but you're learning that confidence to use it as well. So I hope this was an informative webinar for you all. And with that, I would love to take any questions. We're actually a little early, so we got plenty of time for questions.
Perfect. Thanks so much. So we do have a few questions that came in. And again, yes, please type them in if you have any questions for Katie. But So outside of using some basic language, what are some cultural things we can do on a farm to make the Hispanic team members feel welcome and included?
Fantastic question. Outside of using basic language, what are cultural things we can do on a farm? So I would find out first, what holidays do they celebrate? If somebody on your team is from Puebla, you might not know. Maybe it would be cool. And I would ask them, of course, but find out the holidays that they celebrate. Do they celebrate Cinco de Mayo? Maybe you could have like a little fiesta or something, or, research what foods to make, or maybe they'd like to make some foods to share their culture with you. Holidays are a big thing. Birthdays are a big thing. In the Latin American cultures, family is very, very important. I mean, I don't know too many cultures that it's not, but getting to know their family is huge. Getting to know, so I was the emergency contact for a lot of our team's children, just to be on there just in case, the school contacted them. They're like, I don't know what they're saying. Offer that. If you have the time and the resources to do that, offer to be on, maybe their kids' emergency contact, or help them with school, especially. That's a big, as an educator, that's a big, I don't know how I want to describe it, but with their kids going to school, the kids are actually learning more English than the parents most times. And so that can be a very intimidating. So if they know if they have somebody there to help them out, I'm trying to think of some other ways. And it doesn't even have to be holidays. Maybe you just have a day. I always wanted to do this, and I just, is have share. And I guess we have done it with like the tacos and the cheesecakes. I had a gentleman, he was from the mountainous area of Mexico, one of them, and he had never had a pretzel. He had never had a soft pretzel before. I thought that was crazy. So every time that I would take them into town, we would always get soft pretzels. So it's little things like that. And sometimes, it doesn't have to be big things. It can just be small things.
Good suggestions. So what would you recommend to start to get to know Spanish speakers if there is a language barrier?
Definitely learn a little bit of Spanish, just at least so you can greet them. This isn't really, it's not a plug for my class. If you don't want to take it, I'm not offended. But one of the things that we do go over is asking things like, what is your last name? Because especially if you're putting them on payroll. So I have a lot of students that work in the HR department, if you will, on the farm. And so just asking those types of things. And that's actually how you can get to know their family, right? Because you're asking about their dependents to fill out the W-4. Trying to think here. Pictures, visuals. 90% of anybody, it does not matter your ethnicity, culture, whatever, are visual learners. So maybe you have some pictures of a place. One thing that I have learned that really goes over well, I had an employee from Oaxaca, Mexico, which is a beautiful, and I've only seen pictures. And there's actually an Instagram page dedicated just to Oaxaca. And I had pulled it up, and he was like, oh my gosh, he was like, I know this place and you've got to go here. And just showing them pictures of their hometown. You have to be careful because sometimes it will bring up some maybe not so good memories. But most of the time it's like they want to show you where they're from. They want to show you their hometown. I hope that helps.
Yes. And what is the best way to learn Spanish fast?
I always get that one. Definitely taking a class. So there are apps out there. So one of my favorites is Duolingo. Duolingo is a great app to start with. It's actually fun. And it's one of those that will keep you on your toes. Like if you put in how much time you can dedicate it to a day. So maybe you start out with 10 minutes a day. If you, go 2 days without logging on, it will demote you down to a previous level. It keeps you on your toes. It's a really good app. Duolingo's a really good one. The other two that I really like is Babbel, Babbel, and Fluent U. So that's Fluent and just the letter U. I really like Fluent U. Now they all have some type of paid subscription. You can only go so far with the free, but those are my top three. I would do, this one isn't usually feasible for a lot, but oh my gosh, if you can go to a Spanish speaking country, go. When I was in Panama, I wasn't there super long, but it helped to be with a host family that knew no English at all. And that really opened my eyes. And we had to use what we call circumlocution, which it's circum, like if you think of a circle, right? And you're thinking, so for example, say I couldn't remember the word for cow, which is vaca. So I would try to describe a cow using other things. So usually black and white, right? So I would say colors, right? Now I would say alta, tall. It's kind of like, what is that? It's not charades. It's categories, maybe? It's like that game. Those are my top ones. Those apps are really good. If you can find a Spanish speaker that will like give you some time out of every day to just sit and talk with, that's also invaluable.
Well, thank you so much. That's all the questions that we've received so far. But again, I thank everyone for joining us today. On the screen are our next two VES-Artex Academy webinars that we invite you to register for. And thank you so much, Katie, for your time today. We very much appreciate it.
No problem. And just again, if you come up with questions, you can always visit the website. If I can just, Annie, I'm just gonna go back one real quick here. Down at the bottom, it's agvocate.com. My email's in there. You can shoot me an email. I'm on social, on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, if you have any questions about anything, let me know. It was a joy to be here, and thank you all so much.
Yes, thanks everyone, and have a great weekend.
Oh, we have